Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, mumble profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello again, and welcome again, hopefully, to the Wheel of Crime podcast.
Once again. Maybe.
Hopefully. Maybe.
Right? What is your name?
My name is Jen. What's your name?
My name is Emily, and we have a very special guest on the show today, at least for the first half, named Clover. She has decided that she does not want to move away from my microphone. And once she's made up her mind on something, until she decides otherwise, I will have to fight her. So that's fun.
She is an adorable black kitten. Very cute. I can assure you of this.
Oh yes, she's very sweet, but she's definitely a little stubborn, to say. And I could throw her across the room and get her to leave, but she would just come back because that's the kind of cat that she is. So this is the best that we can do for now.
You know what? It is what it is. How was your week otherwise?
Pretty good. I know last week we kind of talked about always being work was busy, blah blah blah. But this week, just with having to catch up from being ill, last week has been hectic, and I really feel like I haven't really done much else other than my usual stuff, playing Dungeons and Dragons and whatever else, because I'm super cool. And yeah, that's really all I can think about.
Fair. I went to Saskatchewan to visit my sister over the long weekend, so that was real fun.
Yes.
I saw them in January. I went over there right after the New Year's, but yeah, it's been interesting with the pandemic because before I saw them in early January, I hadn't seen them for 2 years, since February 2020, right before the pandemic. So it was definitely good to see them a little bit more often.
Yes, I would say so. I feel like that's one of the things with the pandemic and extended family and all these things. It's been a long time since seeing people.
I know. It's hard when you have people who live in different provinces than you, because it's a 9-hour drive, so it's tough to get out there, but I made it a priority to go do it last weekend, so that was good.
Yeah, that's always good. And then, I feel like I was going to ask you about something, but that was basically it. I feel like, we enjoyed our dinner and our Easter hunting and all these other things, and that's pretty much it.
Were your eggs in the gutter this year?
No, this time they were in the gazebo.
Classic.
I know, very, very classic. But yeah, I guess with that, I have a very special episode for you today, actually. I'll get into it once we're done our questions and see if you can figure it out. But yeah, it'll be a good one. I'm curious to see what you think.
I'm intrigued.
Yes.
Let's just jump right into our questions then.
All right. What is the best kind of farm animal?
I feel like we have talked about this before. I am a big fan of chickens. I'm also currently loving ducks. I feel like ducks are so freaking cute.
I never thought about ducks.
I know that you love what are they called? The Highland cows?
I do. I really love Highland cows. I actually also really like goats. I like Highland cows and goats. But no, you're right. I forget all the time that ducks are farm animals, because with where we live, they aren't normally, but in other parts of the world, they are.
Ducks are so freaking cute. I don't know how I got onto this side of TikTok, but currently I'm on ducks drinking strawberry ice water TikTok, and it's so freaking cute.
Why can't I be on that side of TikTok? I always keep hearing this one sound where it's something's in my ass. And I get that sound all the time. And they took away this thing where you can't like block sounds anymore. So I just have been suffering, and I'm like, I am so tired of this. I do not want to see this anymore.
Oh my god. I'll have to send you some duck water TikToks because they're elite.
You should, because I am like ready for it.
I see your other cat has joined us now.
Yes, Fig is very concerned about what's happening with this bag. So, yeah, I don't know. I would actually agree with you for best farm animal than for ducks also, because I also really like ducks, and I don't mind chickens. I find that I do like them, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're my favorite. But maybe that would change like if I actually had a farm. I feel like I would like chickens a lot more compared to like other animals for how much work they can be. Because chickens are easy, and like they like just want to eat the corn and the grain and just hang out and lay eggs, and that's it. It's pretty low key.
They're just little dinosaurs, so
Basically.
I love
and
that
we
for
love
them.
that. We love little dinosaurs.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to our next question. If you could, what kind of farmer would you be?
The kind who lives in the city and doesn't have to wake up early to do farm work and isn't actually a farmer at all.
You know, that does sound like the best thing. I don't know. I feel like if like we were doing farming in the traditional sense where it's like get out, get your land, find something to farm. I don't know. I would want to farm like maybe like coffee. I feel like learning how to make like your own like fresh like homebrewed coffee would be really good. Or or like something random. I don't know.
I have a hard time because of who I am as a person. Every time I think about like coffee farmers, I just think of like how overworked and underpaid they are, and like they're sometimes terrible condition, and and then there's like a spiral in my mind of like, well, I wouldn't want to do that.
See, I get that about almonds whenever somebody talks about almonds, because when Andrew and I were driving through California, it's like a big thing, especially around Los Angeles, where there's billboards everywhere that talk about like how like almonds are like so hard to like do, and like the workers are really like overworked and underpaid, and how it's like, you know, like this whole big deal, and like they need more rights, and like there's like there's like these things where it's like stop almond farming and like all these other things. So now every time I see anything having to do with almonds, I just like transport back in time, and I'm like the almond crisis.
The almond crisis. Yeah, I feel like it's an issue, unfortunately, in a lot of our food industries. Is the people who get us our food are not treated equitably, and you know that's probably a problem we should figure out. But we can't solve that problem on this podcast, unfortunately.
No, we can just talk about it. Or or like I would be like a farm that isn't like really a farm, and I would just have like tons of cats.
I would be like if I had to pick something seriously, I would probably, I don't know if this really counts, but I would run an orchard and like have like a vineyard.
I was about to say a vineyard. Like as soon as you said orchard, I was like, never mind. I'm getting grapes and I'm making wine, but only for me.
Just Emily wine.
Not profit, only Emily wine.
Not for profit vineyard that only serves wine to Emily.
And that's it. Not even Emily's. Like you can't just be an Emily and show up. It has to specifically be just for me.
Yeah. There's a singular Emily, and you're not it. Unless
there can
you are.
only be one. Exactly. So, all right, let's move on to my next question. What is the strangest experience that you've ever had outside? Like a camping trip, or you were like traveling somewhere and you saw something. Like what would you consider to be like a strange outdoor experience?
I don't know if I've really had one. Nothing that I can really recall at this point. I've never been abducted by aliens, so I feel like that's the direction this is going.
That's really funny. Um, yeah, no, like not even like on a camping trip and you like hear like a weird noise outside or like
There's definitely been things. I don't know. I'm blanking at the moment. I feel like I'm chronically afraid of being mauled by a bear or attacked
oh
by some
that's
sort of
that's valid. I get that.
evil demon from a horror movie. So I'm sure I can tell you there's been things. Can I recall them at the specific moment? No, I probably blocked them out from trauma.
That's also fair. I don't know. I feel like I've also had lots of scary and strange experiences both indoors and outdoors. But like as far as like outdoors, what comes to mind for me is I do remember there was this one time where Andrew and I were traveling and it's so weird too. So I'm just going to preface this with when Andrew and I were traveling, we were like driving literally 3 weeks out of the month. So like 3 out of 4 weeks all over the place, like all over Canada, all over the States. And you would think that you'd see more weird shit being on the road. But for us, like, it almost never happened. Like, things were pretty, like, normal or, like, average for, like, traffic. So there was never
Right.
really anything that stood out to me, except for we were driving by a military base in northern Alberta once, and it was, like, pretty late at night. It was, like, 10 or 11 p.m. Like, it was in the summer. It was very late. And the sun had gone down, but it was like, you know, that part of the summer where the sun doesn't set until like way later. It was like one of those things where it was pretty late at night. The sun had just gone down, but it was also like basically midnight already.
Mm-hmm.
And we were driving by this military base, and it's not like we were in the military base, but like Andrew was like telling me about how he's like, oh yeah, no, like if you look on the maps, like this is where it is. Like we're like in the area, but like it's like you would have to like go down an access road to get there and like some extra stuff. So it's not like we were actually there. But we were driving and you could see that there was like a like black object in the sky, kind of like where like so when the sun sets, you know how there's like a small space of time where the sky's like just like a really like light blue kind of like on the horizon, but everything else is really dark.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the window down and you could hear like a whistling sound that wasn't the wind. Like it sounded like there was like a just like somebody with a whistle outside. And we're
Right.
like looking and we're the only people on this road, but like when you look up in the sky like way off in the distance on that blue sliver where there's still you can still see some light, we see like what kind of looks like a plane, but also like it's a very like weirdly shaped plane. Like it was very like round and it wasn't going anywhere. It was just sitting there. And so we're driving still. And the closer that we're getting down the road, because it was kind of like on the road, but like a ways away. And so the closer we're getting, you could kind of hear the whistling sound start to like change. It kind of went from like a whistling sound to kind of like a low hum, like almost like a motor.
Right.
And then the closer we got to this thing, it kind of like it was in the sky, so it like lifted up into the darkness and then disappeared. But as soon as we couldn't see it anymore, the sound that we were hearing like also went away. So he thinks that we might have seen like some kind of like military aircraft that they might have been testing or something. But I don't know.
That's interesting.
I know. I wouldn't call it a UFO because it's not like a like we were kidnapped by aliens on the road. But it was like more like we'd seen like a weird aircraft and then it disappeared and it was making like a really weird sound. And we were also near a military base. So that's what I think.
I mean, technically, you could say it's a UFO because it just means unidentified flying object, right?
I know, right? But there's always like the alien connotation. I am like 100% sure there was definitely a human man, probably, inside of that thing somewhere.
Maybe a human, woman, or non-binary person.
It's true. A individual of human descent in that aircraft somewhere.
Yeah. Maybe it was one of the birds that are controlled by the government. You never know.
It could be that too. It could be many things. But yeah, so that's what pops into my head just because I was thinking about that the other day. And yeah, I don't know. That's all I got though.
I mean, that's pretty weird compared to my nothing that I can remember.
Oh yeah, or like, you know, the not deer that I've seen before or like some other things. But all in all, I haven't seen like anything like like so ridiculously strange where I'm like, oh my god, it was life changing. Just like, you know, people, traffic. People are more weird than anything else, to be honest.
Agreed.
Right? But on that note, let's spin for our last question. Do you believe in alien encounters?
How did I know that it was going here?
Yep. I have a type of story I like to share.
I'm gonna say I this is a tough question because I am of the belief that the universe is so big that the probability that there's life on other planets is high, in my opinion. And I feel like, you know, that scientifically works out too. But I don't think I believe that there's really ever been aliens that have come here. It seems improbable to me, you know? It could happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, and maybe one day I'll be proven wrong. But I feel like it's unlikely. Because if they came here, if they're that advanced that they can come here and we can't go to them, then how do we not know about it, you know?
Oh, yeah. No, I can see that. See, I'm kind of the same opinion where it's like, yes, I believe to a degree. I do think that there's aliens out there. Have they been here? Like, who even knows? Because I think that if there is life on other planets, they wouldn't have, like, it wouldn't be the same as us, and it wouldn't be, like, our idea of, like, life probably either. So, I don't know. And, like, would they even want to come here? Like, I don't know. Maybe. Have they been here before? Maybe. Like, I don't know. It's one of those things where there could be lots of reasons behind it, but do I believe in aliens? Yeah, sure. Probably. Do I believe that they encounter people and steal them away and rob them of their organs and do experiments on them? Maybe. I don't know. That one I have a hard time with, but
I'm gonna go with no for kidnapping them and harvesting their organs.
especially since it seems to have happened more since that one story that I shared on the podcast a while ago of the two individuals who were kidnapped while driving home.
Yeah.
It, like, made the news, and then all of a sudden everybody was having it happen to them.
Everyone's like, it's crazy, man. My kidney's gone now.
Right? Maybe they never had one. Maybe they never had one.
Someone took my tonsils.
Not my tonsils. I wish somebody would take my tonsils.
I know.
They would do me a favor. They could have those for free.
They could take them out for free. I'll let them keep them and everything.
I'll sleep with the window open. Like, come on, just come take my tonsils, please.
Oh, man.
Gosh, that's funny. But yeah, well, you were on the mark with the alien element, because I feel like I haven't done an alien story in a while. But I'm going to read out my description to you, and then I'm going to see what you think of my story today. Okay?
Okay, take her away.
So my topic is cattle mutilation, which is also known as bovine excision and unexplained livestock death. It is the killing and mutilation of cattle under unusual, usually bloodless, and anomalous circumstances. Worldwide, sheep, horses, goats, pigs, rabbits, cats, dogs, bison, deer, and elk have all been reported to be mutilated with similar bloodless excisions. Often an ear, an eyeball, jaw, flesh, tongue, lymph nodes, genitals, and the rectum are removed. And since the first reports of animal mutilations, various explanations have been offered, ranging from natural decomposition and normal predation to cults and secretive governmental and military agencies, to a range of speculations including cryptid predators like the chupacabra and extraterrestrials. Mutilations have been the subject of 2 independent federal investigations in the United States.
Ooh, the FBI is involved.
The FBI? See, what makes this episode so special, though, is this is a story I've already covered. But it is one of the lost episodes from when we recorded those episodes, and then we had a technological error and we couldn't air them.
I was gonna ask if it was, because I was like, this sounds vaguely familiar, and I feel like it's a lost episode. So you guys are in for a treat.
Yes, this is one of my favorite episodes from when we tried to cover them last. I tried to keep the details as similar as to when I would have told it last, but with adding a few extra things for you, of course, because this will be the second time you're hearing it. But yes, it's been over a year since that's happened, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? Enough time has passed. It's our moment. I'm gonna redo this episode, and hopefully it'll be good.
Been like 2 years, because wasn't
It was
I feel like the
September of
last
2019
episode...
when that happened.
Yeah.
It was either 2019 or 2020.
I think it was 2020 because I remember it was right before I did the photos for your sister's graduation.
Yes, that sounds right.
So I feel like, yeah, it was like 2020 because we had taken a bit of a hiatus from the podcast and we were just coming back and we were pre-recording some episodes so we could get ahead and have some scheduled content for you guys. And then all of that was for naught.
Yep, and we wasted
all of those episodes were gone.
All day. It was wonderful. But I still have those notes because I've been waiting. I've been waiting for the moment. And I feel like the moment is now. So I'm going to start with my really tasteful episode about cattle mutilation for you.
Take her away, Em.
All right, so the details are both grisly and strangely surgical. Corpses found under the open sky with their eyes plucked out, their tongues removed, and their private parts excised, all extracted with the utmost precision and leaving not a drop of blood. So, the earliest known documented outbreak of unexplained livestock deaths occurred as early as 1606. And about the city of London and some of the shires adjoining, whole slaughters of sheep have been made, in some places to number 100, in others less, where nothing is taken from the sheep but their tallow and some inward parts, the whole carcasses and fleece remaining still behind. Of this sundry conjecture, but most agree that it tendeth towards some fireworks. So the outbreak was noted in the official records of the court of James I of England. Charles Fort collected as many accounts of cattle mutilations that occurred in England in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. John Keel mentioned investigating animal mutilation cases in 1966, while Ivan T. Sanderson that were being reported in the upper Ohio River Valley around Gallipolis, Ohio. So, the phenomenon remained largely unknown outside cattle-raising communities until 1967, when the Pueblo chieftain in Pueblo, Colorado, published a story about a horse named Lady near Alamoso, Colorado, that was mysteriously killed and mutilated. The story was republished by the wider press and distributed nationwide, and this case was the first to feature speculation that extraterrestrial beings and unidentified flying objects were associated with the mutilation.
The cow community could not be quiet any longer. They will not be silenced.
They will not be silenced from the silent terror that is cattle mutilation. Although it's funny, it started with sheep, though. Yeah, right? Well, and that's the thing. So it started with cattle, it started with sheep, but it's they call it officially cattle mutilation. So I don't know.
Poor sheep and horse, they are forgotten in this tragedy.
Gone but not forgotten.
Outshone by cows.
It's true. As most things are. We just love those cows. So, one of the most shocking cases, called the Lovett Cunningham incident, involves Armenian. It doesn't. Not that. It involves a American Air Force sergeant allegedly abducted by a saucer-like aircraft, after which his cleanly mutilated body was found in the New Mexico desert. So this is a man who was taken and mutilated. So that's the thing too, is that they say cattle mutilations, but then they have like a man who also disappeared and then showed up in the desert missing literal body parts. So
maybe it was a really precise serial killer who is practicing on sheep and cattle and a horse and
it could be
escalated to men.
Maybe it could happen. So in ufology circles, reports have circulated that the case was studied by Project Grudge, one of the earliest U.S. Air Force programs tasked with investigating sightings of unidentified flying objects in the years of World War II. Project Grudge was a short-lived precursor to the better-known Project Blue Book, which ran from 1951 to 1969, and many documents from which are now declassified. So, the result of the Air Force investigation into the purported abduction was allegedly a 600-page document labeled Project Grudge Report 13. But the problem is that no official information on Report 13 exists, and the U.S. government denies its very existence, so its details are known only from second-hand sources who claim to have seen and analyzed the document. One account came from a controversial conspiracy theorist named William Cooper, who was active from 1943 to 2001, who asserts that he was tasked with analyzing an annotated version of Grudge Report 13 in the early 70s. The other came from William English, a former Green Beret captain who says he, too, was asked to analyze the document while assigned to a U.S. security service at a former Royal Air Force base in Chicksands, England. English dictated 2 audio cassettes outlining what he remembered from Report 13, and according to Military Encounters with Extraterrestrials, The Real War of the Worlds by author Frank Joseph, English was also participated in a 1991 Colorado radio broadcast where he discussed his findings. Cooper and English's stories echo one another very closely. Both recount an alleged incident in March of 1956 involving Air Force Sergeant Jonathan P. Leavitt, who was assisting Major William Cunningham in the White Sands Missile Testing Grounds near Holloman Air Force Base in New Mexico. While searching for scattered debris from a recent rocket test, Cunningham was shocked when he heard a loud scream. Thinking Leavitt had perhaps been bitten by a snake, English recounts that Cunningham crossed the dune to aid his partner, where he purportedly witnessed one of the most bizarre human extraterrestrial encounters. Instead of finding Leavitt nursing a snake bite, Cunningham, according to English, recounted seeing the soldier, being dragged by a long serpentine arm that had wrapped itself around his legs, and it was connected to a silver disc, hovering in the air 15 to 20 feet away. Cunningham watched, frozen in horror, as Leavitt was pulled inside of the craft, which then rose vertically into the sky. The Major then stumbled towards his jeep and radioed for assistance. Security teams arrived, and the disturbed Cunningham was confined to the base hospital for observation and treatment after retelling what he had believed that he had witnessed. According to Joseph's Military Encounters book, base personnel did confirm an unidentified radar contact near Holloman at the time that Leavitt vanished. The base dispatched search parties into the desert, but it would be 3 days before Leavitt's nude corpse was discovered some 10 miles from the site of the alleged abduction. From all indications, the body had been exposed to the elements for 24 to 48 hours. According to English, the report offered no explanation of what might account for the missing 3rd day, and the autopsy performed on Leavitt raised more questions than it delivered answers. So, to start, why was Leavitt's corpse so severely mutilated? His tongue had been cut out from the lower portion of the jaw, his eyes gouged out, and his anus was removed. In the Air Force medical examination report pertaining to the incident, English alleges that the coroner remarked on the apparent surgical skill used to remove the organs. In particular, that of the anus and genitalia had been neatly extracted like a plug. Perhaps the most puzzling was the fact that the body had been completely drained of blood, and surprisingly, there was no vascular collapse usually associated with death by bleeding. So even though there was no blood in his body, his cause of death was not loss of blood.
The fact that they describe it like it was removed like a plug is disturbing to me.
Horrifying. But also, I feel like it's a very, key detail on the whole, description of it being surgical, because I feel like you have, a certain image, you're like, oh, yes, surgery, they come in with a knife, and they're like, yeah, and then they get you, and it's nice, and it's neat, and it's not messy. But, like, it's like on top of that, whatever happened to him obviously had been done before, like, regardless of whether or not it was an alien incident, because they're like, yeah, like, his body parts were removed, like, to the point that somebody knew that, like, to take out your literal butthole, that it would come out like a plug, and then they did it.
Ew, I hate that for him.
I know. Blah.
Maybe it was a vampire.
But, like, why would a vampire want your whole anus? Like, the blood, sure. I could understand that. But I feel like, I would willingly never remove a whole anus for myself.
Well, you're not a serial killer vampire with long fingernails.
You're right, I'm not one of those, so maybe I will never understand. But even then, I feel like, you know, like, of all body parts to touch, I feel like I would not want a whole butthole. I think that's not on my list. I don't know what would be on my list of things to take off a person if I ever found one or had the desire to do that. But anus is not there.
Yeah, I personally don't have a list, but that would not be on the hypothetical list.
On my hypothetical list that doesn't exist, that would still not be there. Nope.
People listening are literally calling the police.
911. I think a podcaster is going to remove an anus somewhere at some point. I'd like to call as a warning.
Hello, police? Can you do something?
Can you arrest these people because they keep talking about, like, buttholes, and I'm really not about it. I really don't like this anymore.
They said removed it like a plug, and my fucking soul
and now
left
I'm
my
traumatized,
body.
And I would like to sue for emotional damages.
Honestly, same. I'm also suing Emily for emotional damage.
All right, we'll make, like, a case out of it, because this is all understandable. This is all very understandable. So, so, though Grudge reports 1 through 12 have been declassified, along with report 14, no official mention of accounting of report 13 exists. The Lovett-Cunningham case remains unsubstantiated, and no follow-up reports regarding the incident, if it did in fact happen, are available. While easily disregarded as fiction, the alleged 1956 New Mexico incident offers intriguing parallels to other reported mutilations both in the past and the present. In 1988, a body was allegedly found at the Guarapiranga Reservoir in Brazil, and according to reports, the victim had been dead for 48 to 72 hours, but there was no signs of decomposition. The eyes, ears, tongue, and genitalia had all been removed, as had the digestive organs, and officials were never able to identify who the victim was. So, on from there, widespread reports of livestock mutilation also contain similar details, which is why they've looped these cases into cattle mutilation, because as far as, like, the incision types and what's been removed, it's all the same. And since the early 1970s, incidents of mutilated cattle, sheep, horses, rabbits, deer, bison, and elk have all been recorded, kind of like what I mentioned earlier. And again, so what these corpses are missing, which is also very similar to the two cases, is they are usually missing jaw flesh, eyes, ears, tongues, lymph nodes, and genitalia, specifically. So in 2009, the Denver Post reported 4 calves that were found mutilated in very similar ways as to what I just described as well. So the NPR reported on a 2019 incident in Colorado in which 5 young purebred bulls mysteriously showed up dead, drained of blood, and with other body parts cleanly excised. So excised meaning, like, removed with precision. So
Right.
to kind of top off my episode, which I didn't realize was going to be so short, but, you know, it is what it is a lot of people lean towards aliens, says Harney County Sheriff's Deputy Dan Jenkins. And one caller told us to look for basically a depression under the carcass, because he said that the alien ships will kind of beam the cow up, do whatever they do to it, and then they just drop it from a great height. So numerous reports of cattle mutilation in the western and midwestern states in the 1970s, and the FBI were asked to step in and investigate. But according to now declassified documents, they were unable to properly perform the task due to jurisdiction issues. and no official answer was ever given about these particular strange and unsettling incidents, and still to this day they remained unsolved.
Here's my theory.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
So a man turned into a vampire. He now has long fingernails.
As you do. Yep.
He is also a surgeon with like really steady hands, so he can remove things like a plug, which is disturbing, but that's what he does.
But he do it with his long fingernails.
He does. Instead of a knife, he uses his long fingernails.
Okay, I follow.
And he's got a crane. So then once he's done, he drops them from really high up using his crane.
And then he vanishes into the night.
With his crane. So
with the
no
crane.
trace.
With the ghost crane.
Very elaborate.
I mean, it makes sense to me. That's the best theory I've heard so far, because literally nobody has any idea of what to even say or do about any of these things. Like, if it comes up that there's a mutilation, they're like, I don't fucking know. Like, it's missing blood and it's genitals, I guess.
I'm telling you, vampire man, long fingernails, crane. I've solved the mystery, guys. You're welcome. This is why I went to journalism school.
Exactly.
For this moment.
Yeah, well, I mean, why else would you go to journalism school if it wasn't for this moment?
I genuinely don't know.
You're like, I've been preparing for years. But yes, so today's episode will be bite-sized, which, you know what, it's good. It's a nice little, I would say, palate cleanser, but not really, from last week's episode. That's fun. So fun. And yeah, I mean, that's the best theory I've heard so far, because I honestly, when I was researching this the first go around, and I still don't have an answer on like what I possibly think that could be. Like, there's so many different animals that have all had the same thing happen to them in like every country and of all types of animals. So it's like, you know, like, very weird, but it does seem to target mammals specifically.
It's very peculiar for sure.
Right? So, who knows?
Maybe they're the reason why jellyfish have no bones.
They took them. They took all of the jellyfish bones for themselves. It's selfish almost.
And now people just think that jellyfish don't have bones, but really, they've been robbed.
It's true.
And we've been letting it happen.
And that's the worst part, guys, is that we have let it happen. We have done a disservice to all jellyfish. And that's a lot of jellyfish. For every single jellyfish.
Yeah, that's a fuck ton of jellyfish.
Right? But what we do know is that if you liked today's episode, you can always leave us a review on wherever you listen to our podcast on. Most of them have features. I know Spotify does now, and Apple Podcasts. It helps us with trending. If you want to check out our website, we are available at www.wheelofcrime.com. If you would like to send us a story and tell us about an alien experience of your very own, you can email us wheelofcrime@gmail.com. We also have social media, and that is on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime. And lastly, if you would like to donate to the show, we do have a Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime at Patreon.
Yes, and with that, we will see you again next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.